Greetings.
Greetings, man. Yeah. I'm just- What's that noise? All right, let everything settle down. All right, everything is looking good on this end, man. We're going to get what we get.
Okay. Okay.
And they'll just have to put up with me having a headache. So, all right, let me get ready. All right. Greetings and welcome to Get the News Straight. I'm your host, Glenn Sutphin, and with me today is political pundit Chris Dorsey. Chris, welcome to the show.
Greetings. Greetings. How's it going, guys?
It's going. Okay, I guess we'll cover what we covered the other night. We'll just recap a lot of what we already went through since we lost all that footage. Well, we didn't lose the footage. We lost the audio.
Mhm.
So just recap, because I think the first one we did was the Trump, Mike Morrell, Clinton.
Yeah.
You
We covered a lot of that, and that's still the news. You know that happened as the Friday. They still covering Mike Morrell. We know that that's cover for Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, because Mike Morrell called Donald Trump a Russian agent, and we know that's cover because Mike Morrell is a Russian agent, of course, too. And when we say Russia, we just know that Russia, China, the United States, the Eurozone, all the, powers of the world, but even the non-powerful countries of the world are all controlled by United Nations Agenda 21, the Bank for International Settlements, the International Banking Cartel, and NGOs and governmental agencies that forward the one world government agenda. So basically all the governments of the world are controlled by all the same Jewish bankers and
Club of Rome and all them, right? Club of Rome and all
Mike
those.
Morrell basically went out on a very, extensive, far limb. He went very far out on a limb, I should say, and brought this thing up about Donald Trump and his associations with Russia. And that's so folks wouldn't and he does have them. He has associations with Russian organized crime and the Rothschild family operating in Russia.
Obviously. I mean, all the puppets
All
do.
of it. But also, the most important thing possibly is the fact that Hillary Clinton is such a closely associated agent of the Russian government. And now we went through yesterday, or a couple days ago, the fact that the Soviet style of government was the winner out of the Cold War, the Second World War. The United States of America is no longer a constitutional republic. It is much more like a Soviet state, and
more of a corptocracy, a corporate structure with your president at the top and your CEOs, and then it goes down in a pyramid shape. And it is very corptocracy, corpocratic.
Sure, but also we want to point out that it's based much more on communism and international communism than anyone would have you believe. We have basically a communist Soviet state. And interestingly, when we get into who's a Russian agent, it seems like Hillary Clinton is the most obvious Russian agent, because she and her husband Bill, or her associate husband Bill,
her cousin,
is very keen on giving nuclear secrets and other secrets away to not only the Russian government, but the Chinese government. And we could get into that, but we want to focus on Russia now. And the fact that while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, the Russian state-owned atomic energy corporation called Rosatom gained control of 20% of the United States of America's uranium production in Oregon, in Utah, and in Texas. And it was Hillary Clinton, while the Clinton Foundation was getting massive donations from Russian oligarchs associated with Rosatom at the same time this deal was going down, and at the same time Bill Clinton was getting huge monetary compensation for speaking engagements involving Rosatom and Rosatom related banks and investors, and that Hillary Clinton brokered this deal with Vladimir Putin, and they're acting as if Vladimir Putin is taking sides in this election. But this is all a big cover because the corporate media arm, the Zionist media arm of the international one world government entity is attempting to get you to think that there is some sort of, you know, dispute between the United States government and the Russian government. And if that were the fact, why would the United States government be giving away weaponized uranium to their biggest rival, the thing that weaponizes the ultimate weapon of war, which is nuclear weapons? But in fact, we know that's just a ruse. We know that the U.S. government, the Russian government, and it wasn't just Hillary Clinton, it was every cabinet level position in the United States government, Department of Energy, the Secretary of the Department of Energy signed off on this deal, Department of Defense signed off on this deal.
Most of Congress, I mean, everybody in there is
everybody signed off on this Rosatom deal.
Or they turned their back and ignored it, which in which case it did, you know.
Well, what I'm saying is that in fact it wasn't just Hillary Clinton that brokered the deal. She was Secretary of State, but that the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Energy and every other cabinet level position, they not only okayed this, but they signed off on it. And so we want to just point that out when you see these cover stories go out like Donald Trump is a Russian agent. Yeah, he is a Russian agent. But you know who's even a bigger Russian agent? His opponent, Hillary Clinton. And you know, not only Donald Trump donated millions to the Clinton Foundation, but also that Russian government officials donated millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. And if you guys want to look into this, just look into the transaction between Rosatom and the Canadian-owned company called Uranium One, which is was run by Frank Guistra, who was a very close associate of Bill Clinton, and he seems to have been involved in the nefarious activity with the Clinton Foundation in Haiti as well. So I just wanted to cover that real quick. I wanted to give a shout out to Kyle Hunt that he covered this subject. This is not even news, I should say, because this stuff happened, you know, several years ago, and it was covered in the mainstream media last year. So I just want to point that out when these cover stories to distract from the real events of the world, from the truth and reality of the world come out. Folks like Mike Morrell, when he says somebody else is a Russian agent, and that's Mike Morrell, former CIA head, that means Mike Morrell himself is a Russian agent. So, yeah.
At the top, they're all together. I mean, it's all, you said it, it's a one world order. It's the same people doing the same thing, much like what we have around here in Richmond, the same people doing the same thing. So it's, I mean, if you people can't see it, you're blind. I mean,
right.
It's
there. It's there for those with eyes to see and ears
to hear.
Yeah.
And while we're giving a shout out, I want to give a shout out to my son, Nathaniel, for helping me with all the electronic stuff and trying to keep all this shit running for me. He's been a big help, and since it got cut out in the last episode. And let's get a little bit into that, because I've noticed here just lately while we're filming, it's starting to glitch again. So sabotage, it's government, but I go old school. So this, I ain't worried about it this time. We got it all covered.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Let's touch real quick on the Hillary, since we're talking about glitches and short circuiting. Let's Hillary Clinton and her bizarre glitches and short circuits. She's speaking in public and seems to
Hold on a minute. They're glitching. Hold on a minute. They're glitching you. Yeah. I'll continue on about her bizarre, almost like my computer fucking up. I mean, she starts doing can't walk up steps, can't walk across the stage. You talk to her and she goes off into space. I mean, you talk about MK Ultra and mind control.
Oh yeah.
Or she has a brain ailment. I mean, concussion and massive head injury, I know for a fact, will lead to bizarre behavior like that. And that kind of person is not fit to be the leader of a country. I mean, sorry.
Sure.
Because
also,
it can be compromised on, but go ahead.
Yeah, my apologies. Just going in with this, Hillary obviously closely associated with the trauma-based mind control MK Ultra program. She is lesbian, is sexual predator, and she's right in like her husband, all of these pedophile networks and like wrong.
Yeah, they're breaking you up real bad, mate. Let's end this segment real quick here,
okay,
and we'll come back with another segment.
All right, sounds good.
This is Glenn Sutphin signing off on this segment. It's a little crappy, but hopefully it'll work.
We got that first part, didn't we?
Yeah, I ain't worried. I'm not worried about it. We're just going to keep going.
Yeah, sure, I'm down.
All right, because I've got camera 2 running, so we got it covered. All right. Hello, and welcome to this segment of Get the News Straight. I'm your host, Glenn Sutphin. With me today in this segment is Chris Dorsey, political pundit. Let's get into the Richard Gutjahr incident and his alleged, I don't even know what you would call it, because it seems like he's worse than Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe. Every time he shows up, stuff happens. It's don't be anywhere near this Richard Gutjahr when he's on vacation or walking around, because a psyop's going to happen on you. I mean, it's getting to the point it's ridiculous with these Gladio drills overseas and the Rex drills here at home. I mean, I don't even want to cover the news anymore because it's not really news. It's all psyop, and it's getting rather old because they're beyond sloppy with these drills. But what's your take on the situation there?
Well, it's a really interesting scenario where this guy Richard Gutjahr, who is a German video journalist, and he is alleged to have videotaped the Nice, France, Bastille Day rampage, which involved a patsy in a truck driving over a crowd of individuals and mutilating and killing 84 or 85, I forget which one it is, 84 or 85 people.
I have to correct you. It wasn't really mutilating because there was no carnage at the scene.
Allegedly.
Okay, we'll go.
And at the same time, when he's allegedly driving this truck, which, how did he get the truck? We don't really know. Did he steal the truck? I mean, I couldn't get into a truck like that and drive anywhere. I would stall out. I'm not trained to drive that kind of vehicle. But it seemed like he was pretty smooth with it. And also, he had allegedly bodies and fake guns in the back of the truck.
And explosives. And AIDS and all kind. I mean,
right. Every aspect of this story is BS. But the biggest, I would say, smoking gun to point out the BS is this guy Richard Gutjahr, who just happened to be right out on a balcony to film this.
Which I have to comment on that, because how could he be on a balcony and be in front of the truck filming at the same time?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good question, because
all the video I saw was from the front. You got this skateboarder that looks at him and then walks out into the road. I mean, it was all from the front, watching the vehicle come in, and then he goes, "I was on the balcony." You couldn't be out in the crowd and on the balcony. I mean, there.
Okay. Well, then we that's getting into the real nonsense. But what we want to point out is that Richard Gutjahr is married to Enoch Will, and she is a very high-ranking Israeli Secret Intelligence Service officer. She is one of the highest-ranking members of ISIS that one can find, and she is a member of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. She is an associate of every single prime minister for the past 20 years. She is a member of the Mossad, and she is part of a top-secret IDF in Harvard. And the fact that this guy, Richard Gutjahr, was there to be in perfect position, just like the 5 dancing Israelis during 9/11, to capture the event. Because the Israeli government, not only do they carry out these events, they have to videotape them to be able to control the narrative that's put out in the media in regard to these events. So that's what happened in.
Well, getting on that point real quick, they commandeered all the CCTV evidence and said you couldn't put it out. So yeah, they are controlling this.
Just like the FBI, the Virginia State Police, the New York State Police, the CIA, and all other intelligence agencies in the United States of America did after 9/11. So we could say, like, oh, well, obviously there's the video of the missile hitting the Pentagon. There was no plane. Obviously, where we could pick this apart, immediately. So that's what they get out in front of it, and they said, oh, we're going to confiscate all the cameras, and the only video evidence, the only evidence of any kind that comes from to verify that these events take place the way they say it does is an agent of the Mossad, Richard Gutjahr, and he did this in Nice, France, and then, ironically enough, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, in
about 2 weeks,
Munich, Germany, there is another Gladio-style staged government PSYOP event shooting in Munich, Germany, and again, Richard Gutjahr is the individual that captures pictures and video, and I'm the one that's saying the video is Richard Gutjahr's. Now, it's associated with somebody named John DeConner, but really, who else is out there? It's not associated with anybody else's name because John DeConner leads nowhere. There is no John DeConner. He's not a journalist.
It could be a nom de plume.
Could be a nom de plume, but what's not a nom de plume is the pictures that appear in numerous mainstream media sites immediately. The first images are attributed to Richard Gutjahr, who took a picture not long after the event took place. That's the first eyewitness in Huffington Post and in all the other mainstream media posts where Richard Gutjahr says, quote unquote, it's like something out of a bad movie in describing the incident that took place in Munich, Germany, that this guy is the #1 source for the past 2 Gladio-style drills in Europe, and that he is an agent of the Mossad, and this fits in with the Mossad MO of not only carrying out these events, but also being the exclusive video reference
Only source.
and
Yeah, the only
source for this.
Yeah.
Now, we can also tie that into site intelligence and Rita Katz, who's always the first one who comes up with the Bin Laden, Al-Qaeda videos, and also the ISIS videos through the ISIS magazine. And who is the one that has the only access to this? The Mossad? Well, of course, if anybody knows what's really going on, the Mossad and the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service, they created Al-Qaeda, they created ISIS, they created, or Daesh or ISIL, whatever anybody wants to call them.
Whatever week.
And it's obvious, we've caught them, from the beginning to the end and everywhere in between, we have laid out exactly what they're doing, and it's not difficult. These race war psyops that they're doing in the United States within an hour always. Not just us, but usually we're among the first. We debunk their psyop. We say what the name of the people involved are, who they're associated with, as far as the crisis acting corporations go, and the intelligence agencies of different nations. We out the DGSE from France. We out the FSB from Russia. Out the CIA, the DHS, the FBI, and local law enforcement here in the United States, the MI6 in Great Britain, and they're all working together to form this one world government and confuse everyone and get them to the point where we don't have any rights anymore. We don't have any natural rights because, we have them, but they've been usurped because God gives us our rights, and government
our rights
treat them
are
as privileges.
They're fundamental. They're fundamental. They can't be taken away.
Right.
But the government tells you this permitted stuff is your rights, and it's bullshit. You can't. Getting to the analogy you always say about God makes man, man makes government. Getting to that analogy, it'd be like if I made a chair, and then I let that chair rule my life. That's what we did with government. We made government. And then government now rules over the citizens. And I'm so sick of it. It's like, you people, if you want under that system, fine. Be under that system. I'm not under that system. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to live that way, fine. I am not forced into that box. I made that box, therefore I cannot get back into that box. If you want to be in that box, be in that box.
And I think you point out the absurdity of the idea that government thinks that they can give the people their rights, that we grant you these privileges. We have jurisdiction over you. We're a two-dimensional creation of man, but yet we have jurisdiction over man. And this is, this is replacing our creator, our God, with government, and that's what they wish to do, and I don't want to have anything to do with it, because you can't get much more satanic or blasphemous than taking some sort of two-dimensional creation of man, what you and I are.
It's not even a creation, it's an idea.
That is better than what God can create. I'm a man, and I know I can create a government. I create my own government. I self-govern. But I know I am nothing in comparison to the creator of me and everything else. I don't have the capability of even creating myself. So how could I put myself at a level of a God? But that's what these individuals that push for this omnipresent, all-powerful one world government wish. They wish to replace God with government. And it's they made their God the government. Yeah.
I mean, their religion is government, and I'm not religious, so I don't follow that religion. I don't, I don't consent. Look up consent of the governed, people.
Yeah.
I not
And
consent to do this.
we ordain the government, and this is what
Correct.
our documents say. We ordain the government for the purposes. We the people ordain the government for our purposes. And
I found my copy.
yeah, absolutely. We want to use that Alex Jones BS citizen rule book. Yeah, there's a big difference between that. So should we hit Alex Jones now, because I don't know what we got.
Him tied in with the Richard Guteyard thing, so yeah, we can get on to.
Okay. This is very interesting because Alex Jones, who is an agent of Israel and is a complete lying sack of Zionist garbage, just like Anderson Cooper, just like Wolf Blitzer, just Tom Brokaw before him.
Any media.
Right. He's a media whore. And what is happening now is these false flag events that are taking place, Alex Jones is reversing himself, because he's now saying, yeah, the government narrative, oh yeah, Muslim extremists. Oh no, it's not Israel. Look at these guys out there. Oh, he'll call us white supremacists. Now, you and I are not white. We do have the similar complexion, but it's more like beige or pink or
peachy pink, yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Unless I get out in the sun and then I'm brown.
We're of European ancestry, but what we will say is, I will say it, God is supreme. I'm not supreme. I'm not white. And I'm a European nationalist, but I will also say this, that when I was abducted by the police last summer, abducted by the Department of Homeland Security and the Secret Service and the police, and it wasn't the first time, but I will say, I will take the side of any nationality of human being over any law enforcement or government agent every day of the week. If there is someone who is a traitor, who is of our peerage, who represents the government, and someone who is an African of African descent, I will always take the side of the individual of African descent. And I will say that when I was abducted and I was beaten up and taken off the street, was African descent, people, I should say, of African descent, man of African descent, who saved my butt, who picked up the camera, started filming the police beating me up, witnessed the police erasing the video on the scene. And, I just want to make that very clear. We're not taking sides, although we do talk about the European genocide, the genocide of the so-called white people, where, before World War II, 29% of the world population was of European descent, and now we're down to 8%. This is definitely a concerted effort, the European genocide, but certainly we're not going to take the side of the police.
Well, it's genocide total.
And this is a good segue, that Alex Jones was saying that the folks who were questioning the false flag attacks and blaming Israel are allegedly white supremacists who are funded by Saudi Arabia. Now, we've already established on Al-Alam, on Press TV, on Al-Attajiyah, you and I, many others have done this before us too, that the Saudi royal family is Jewish, that the Saudi Arabian government is a Zionist front, and that they do the bidding of the state of Israel. And you guys can look into our history with that. It's on this YouTube page. And also, we are not white supremacists. That is a pejorative. We will definitely take the side of African Americans and any others, and European Americans, and Europeans or Africans or anybody who is getting done dirty by any government agent, including European American government agents. we're going to take you down if you're dirty. It doesn't matter what your ethnic background is.
Yeah, I'm against the elite totally. I'm not, I don't. The elite are black. The elite are white. The elite are Jewish. They're Catholic. They're Protestant. They're all mixes.
Right. It's mostly
But they're all
a Jewish operation.
Yeah, they're all Zionist Jews.
They're all Zionist Jews.
Well, communism is a Zionist plan. It's a Jewish.
Right, and what we're seeing now, in played out, and what we've been seeing probably since the protocols were first published, is we're seeing a playing out of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. Because it's interesting, folks say that was it was made up by the intelligence arm of the Imperial Russian Tsar and this and that. Man, that was made a long time ago, and that stuff that they were writing about, it didn't happen yet. And it's all happened throughout time, and it's even happening now. So anyone can say whatever they wish to about the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, but it's much more prophetic than Nostradamus or Jimmy the Greek or any other so-called predictive, program, or somebody who's able to see into the future. This is what the plan was, and this is what's being carried out. That being said, you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter if someone comes to me and we think we're going to go follow the money, we're going to start neutralizing and executing our enemies who are controlling the monetary, the communication / media, and the military of the one world government. I know we're going to come up with mostly what are called Jews. But it doesn't matter. We could come up with anyone. It doesn't matter. Whoever we find, whoever's the richest individual in every town, they need to be neutralized. Whoever is the most powerful government official in every town, they need to be neutralized. And this is all across the world, and we're going to start in the United States. So it doesn't matter. We know it's the Jews, but it doesn't matter. We could be proven completely wrong, and I go, oh, it's not? Okay, well, we're going to have to neutralize these individuals anyways. We're going to have to
whoever's in charge
system regardless of who it is and what their motivation is.
I don't care if it's Jewish. I don't care if it's Martian.
Right.
Green, purple guys.
Right.
You know what? They got to be stopped.
They got to be stopped. They got to be
have to be stopped.
neutralized.
If they're reptilian, they pull their face off, they're lizards, they got to be stopped. I don't care. I mean, It would be very interesting if they did that, because this Bad B movie needs some lizard people.
Right.
I mean, it's, but,
well, here, I do want to point out that real quick, because when we get into reptilians, I want to point out that it's the reptilian brain. And when we start talking about people being evil and satanic, we can just say, if you don't like that, you go, okay, well, you don't like the way we're wording that. Okay, then they haven't developed past their reptilian brain, the back of their brain, not the front of their brain, which is where...
They're not using their frontal lobe.
They're not using their frontal lobe. Okay, there we go. Explain.
Yeah, it's not blank. They just don't know that it exists because they haven't gone up past and evolved into their frontal lobe.
Right.
I mean, they're the people I call troglodytes, and that's what they are. They reverted back to troglodytes, which were in the timeline of humans. Troglodytes.
And I think sociopathy plays a key role in all this.
Well, it's all mind war. I mean, they've even said it. They've gone from the Psi war, the psyop war, to now mind war. Mm-hmm. And their message, Alex Jones did get it right. There is a war on for your mind. They're trying to control your mind, how you think, what you do, and they're controlling you through it. And it's, I already learned how to control myself. I don't need somebody to do it for me. And I think we'll end this segment on that, and we'll go to the next segment. So for this segment, signing off.
All right.
Hi, and welcome to Get the News Straight. I'm your host, Glenn Sutphin. With me on this segment is Chris Dorsey. Let's get into the Corinne Gaines incident that happened that we've covered a couple times, but since it all got blanked out, let's go through that again because you had some interesting things.
Man, that whole Corinne Gaines thing. The more time goes by, the more it just seems our instant reaction rep seems so fake. It seems that this Corinne Gaines issue, and when we talk about Corinne Gaines, I'll give you a quick background. Corinne Gaines was a woman alleged to have lived in Baltimore County, Maryland, and she alleged to have had a background where she was involved in sovereign citizen movement. And when I say sovereign citizen, I mean literally those two words because they're a contradiction in term. Sovereign, that means
if you're sovereign, you can't be a citizen.
You can't be a citizen. A sovereign citizen.
It doesn't work.
At least according to the Constitution of the United States and the 14th Amendment, it's a contradiction in terms because a citizen under the 14th Amendment subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, and a sovereign can't be subject to the jurisdiction of anything except for a form of government, I should say. And so Corinne Gaines was a Baltimore County woman, and she allegedly was pulled over in March, and she had a cardboard, I guess, cutout place where the Maryland license plate normally goes on individuals' cars in the state of Maryland. And it had some clumsily worded sovereign citizen rhetoric. And there was a video of this where she starts bringing up the fact that these guys are going to have to kill her. They're going to try to take her child. They're doing this, that, and the other thing. There's a lot of elements of the Philando Castile psyop in this psyop. And that happened in March. Then on July 1st, Baltimore County introduces their taser body camera program. And
you break a little bit. Hold on. Okay. Getting the taser, they're also the ones that pulled out the taser. They're the ones that have the taser units that gave them to the cops, and now they're doing the body cams as well.
Yes.
So it's the same company that does the non-lethal, lethal tasers. So do body cams.
Tasers definitely should be banned because they're killing people every day. The police are killing people every day with these tasers. And when I say the police are killing people every day with these tasers, I am being literal because the police kill probably between 11 and 1,500 people every year in the United States, and they don't do it with guns as much as they do with tasers. And
or brute force.
Force
is one of the top things they use.
I mean, there's a video on this channel I asked for folks to check out just because, we want to point out that this is ridiculous when idiots like Alex Jones, who we expose, starts calling white supremacists because videos on this channel where we expose, white and black cops killing, African-American named Daryl Beasley in Petersburg, Virginia. And like you just said, they don't use a gun. They don't use a taser. They use 5 guys sitting on this one individual.
They burked him.
Yeah, thank you. And
burk killing, and look it up, people. That's when they sit on your chest,
right?
And so you can't breathe, and then you die.
So all this stuff, we're just attempting to get to the bottom. If one is one of, and it doesn't matter what their background is. Okay, so we want to just make that very clear. And so when we're talking gains and the race for PSYOP, we're not trying to minimize and clout. We're not trying to take away humanity. We're trying to point out these guys will lie about everything, and the stuff that's supposed to, for humans to accept, that's the kind of lie. So we have this okay, so moving forward, Baltimore County gets the pages cameras. 1 month later, on August 1st, there's reports only coming from the Baltimore County Police and Fire Emergency Twitter page and social media. Corinne Gaines and her child, Corinne has been shot and killed, and her child has been shot. And that's all the details there were. No pictures, no background of Corinne Gaines. Doesn't seem to be even a person named Corinne Gaines. Now, I started doing searches of the Baltimore County court system because they started referencing the court and she was allegedly engaged in. No records of that. No records of cases. No records of an individual named Corinne Gaines existing. And then when images, when you start searching for images, doing regular DARPA-net searches, regular, searches of Google and government-controlled search engines, which put out every sort of filth imaginable that they can control. But no pictures of Corinne Gaines, except for one. And Corinne Gaines seems to be a shapeshifter like Osama bin Laden, because there seems to be the individual that seems to be 80% European and maybe 15 to 20% African American. There seems to be who looks to be in her mid to late 20s. There's a much darker complected teenager that's alleged to be Corinne Gaines. That's a completely different individual. And then there is the Corinne Gaines that is somewhere in between. So there's multiple Corinne Gaines. And nothing pops up about her until there's a wiki page that pops up later on that night, 4 or 5 hours after the alleged shooting incident, because Corinne Gaines, another thing that's going on, is allegedly involved in a standoff on August 1st, 2016. No police video, taser body cameras on scene, but Corinne Gaines is interviewing her son, who was allegedly shot by the Baltimore County Police and wounded but survived. She's interviewing her son. She's taking videos of SWAT officers inside of her apartment, standing there with a gun, with a body camera in plain sight attached to this guy's SWAT helmet. So, knowing that, then later we have Chief Johnson, who the next day, and that's Chief Johnson of the Baltimore County Police, say there were no body cameras there. So that's when I decided to call the Baltimore County Police Department. And I get on the phone with a commanding officer who again repeats Chief Johnson's line, there are no body camera, there is no body camera footage, I should say, and there were no body cameras on the scene for this hours-long standoff that ended with somebody being murdered inside their own home, allegedly by the police, and a 5-year-old child shot. Now, I did ask Baltimore County Police, is the standard operating procedure to shoot at a 5-year-old child? And the answer I got, and you can see it online, it's up there. It's got, 6,000 or so views, was the woman said, I'm not sure. That's when I got on very shortly after that is when I got on the phone with the commanding officer on duty there. And he just basically told me that there were no body cameras. And when I followed up with multiple statements, he just hung up the phone. So how we get in, if you get into kind of like the esoteric aspect and the symbolism and the tricks that they're doing and kind of the joke that they're playing on us with this Korean Games race war style, I think it would be kind of interesting, the information, like the Taylor Champ stuff and the
Yeah, we got time on this segment.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. So as you know, Glenn, because you were on the Facebook page when the stuff started coming up, we're like, hey, this seems fake. There is no Corinne Gaines. There's no evidence that this person exists. There's different pictures, so we're going like, hey, this is so confusing. Somebody I don't know posted this wiki page, and this wiki page has the police story, the background with Corinne Gaines, and videos that were alleged to have taken place or be documenting the standoff, including video where she's asking her 5-year-old son, "Who's outside?" And the 5-year-old son says, "The police. Well, what do they want to do? They can kill us." And the video says, and of course the video of the SWAT officer standing there like a statue with a gun in the way, his body.
I saw that finally, where he's just standing there and plain as day, like you said, he's looking around the corner and there's the camera right on his helmet.
Right.
With the gun, and he's standing there like a statue, and he moves a little bit, moves again, and.
Right, and he's allegedly holding a 5-year-old child. Oh, this woman.
Yeah, holding. Okay, that's something else I want to get into about. Well, getting back to Richard Gutjahr and the incident and stuff.
Okay.
Where are all these Terminator people coming from? She had a shotgun, long-arm shotgun in the one hand, her 5-year-old child in the other, and she's able to do all this shit.
What?
I fire weapons. I can barely do that.
You can't.
It only happens in Hollywood.
Right. You're not going to be. You can't do it. Now, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying I'll speak for myself. I can't do it.
And what kind of shotgun was it? Because if it was a 12 gauge and she's going to shoot it one-handed, yeah, okay. But we won't believe that one too well.
And she's like,
yeah, I can pump it and do it to the kid, and I'm Rambo mom.
Yeah,
boom, boom.
Rambo mom.
I mean, come on, people. I mean, this is what I get into. It's like, I don't like covering this shit because when you start digging into it, it's like, explain it to me.
Okay.
Explain how what they told you is the truth. And you can't. And then when you can't, you go, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Yes, I am. What's that got to do with any goddamn thing? Explain the problem.
Conspiracy analyst.
I'll go with theorist.
Okay.
I make up theories, but my theories are based on fact.
Okay.
You know?
Amen. Amen. Hey, I want to point out, this is not only, a woman, because there are strong women. There are stronger, and you watch, the Olympics is on.
Mm-hmm.
So there are women, but if one looks at Corinne Gaines, that is a very tiny woman. That is a very small, looks like she might weigh between like 85 and 95 pounds. And when I say that, I'm saying that literally. This is a demure.
Mm-hmm. That's what I said. And then she does all this superhuman shit.
Short woman. Okay.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
How about now?
Hold on. All right.
All of the Corinne Gaines, especially the one that they have established is the one that they're going to go with. Looks like a TV star or a model, which will go into Chandler, because in the movie created that came out of nowhere in regards to Corinne Gaines, they cite two family members. One is named Taylor Champ, and Taylor Champ, when you click on that on the wiki page, it originally took one to her Twitter page, and this is Taylor Champ. And on her Twitter page, it describes Taylor Champ as an actor, number one, the original Abercrombie Beyonce, which brings in the Illuminati, false flag psyop, and operations of Beyonce, who is one of the crisis actors that pushes forward these agendas. She was on the major stage during Super Bowl, during the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party, while Cam Newton and, Newton, like Huey P. Newton, was playing the game, the White Broncos versus the Black Panthers in San Francisco, Levi Stadium, the Bay Area, which is where the Black Panthers originated from, in Oakland and San Francisco, and she comes out with her sexy Black Panther outfit, for her halftime, which is, how they forward all this stuff, put in your mind Black Panther, put in your mind sports, put in your mind rigged, fixed sporting events, Black Panther, White Bronco, Newton for Huey P. Newton, Cam and Huey P. Newton. So, interesting, there was the acting element of Taylor Champ, and of course the sports aspect, because when you talk about Mid-Atlantic sports, you have to bring up the Washington Redskins, and of course, Washington Redskins great Sean Taylor, who was murdered, years ago, and also Champ Bailey, and he has the Bronco connection too. He was Redskin and a Bronco. Denver, of course, Denver Airport, Denver Broncos, Charlotte Bank of America, pushing forward these gigantic murals with the martial law and genocide scenarios. So when we look into Taylor Champ, we see that they had switched on the wiki page from her Twitter to her Instagram. And on her Instagram, the most prominent picture is of her and her alleged boyfriend, and this is Taylor Champ, who's listed as cousin of Corinne Gaines, and then step, whatever that means, of Corinne Gaines. And she and her boyfriend are wearing matching Machado Baltimore Orioles jerseys, and that's what that looks like when they're back-to-back is two number 13s, so we get the number 13 back in there. They're putting all these subliminal messages out to us, and it's really about control, because they're rigging all of it. It's not some sort of – it's a combination of supernatural esotericism and most importantly, the fact that they rig all of these things, and they put these numbers in not by chance, but to round out their ritual, I should say.
Yeah.
So
I'm expecting something today being 8816. So I mean,
it always happens, and it doesn't always happen the way we think it's going to.
Right. Well, also too, tomorrow is like the second anniversary of Ferguson, so they're going to do something. It might not be spectacular, but they're going to do something. They always do. They love their patterns and their number schemes, and
another thing that's important, and we kind of want to touch on this, is because this Corinne Gaines thing, I think that it didn't really catch fire in the mainstream media because it just kind of fizzled out. It was an unbelievable story, and now they're pushing this O'Neal teenage shooting in Chicago as something. But getting back to Corinne Gaines real quick, we also want to note that this Friday incident on 8, or it wasn't Friday, I should say. This incident that happened with Corinne Gaines on August 1st, the August 1st incident with Corinne Gaines and the Baltimore County Police, that came only a couple days after, all of the charges against the police officers in the Freddie Gray incident were dropped. And this comes after Edward Nero and Caesar Goodson were acquitted of all charges. And we want to get into some of the symbolism of the Freddie Gray case, the 50 Shades of Freddie Gray, because it's one of these color sides, because there's 3 black cops and 3 white cops, and that makes it gray. The Gray State is the movie in which this individual who allegedly produced the movie Gray State was allegedly murdered for making a movie about martial law and the police state, but he called it the Gray State. So there we got Freddie Gray. Then we have the Greyhound race war psyop shooting in Richmond, Virginia, where James Brown III of Aurora, Illinois, shot and killed Chad Dermeyer, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the Virginia State Police, etc., in the middle of a drill, which was a live shooter drill in which a live shooting took place. So again, the key thing I want to point out about the Greyhound shooting is not only the word gray being color and a combination of black and white psyop, we also want to point out that Aurora is yet again involved, because the Batman shooting involving the color orange, James Holmes III was from Aurora, Colorado, and James Brown III is from Aurora, Illinois. And so we got that gray race war. And of course, moving on past the Greyhound shooting to 50 Shades of Gray, which came out on video the exact weekend of the Freddie Gray riots, is about submission and dominance, and the word gray being a gray area. And that's when they initiated these live martial law events on CNN, where they're like, oh, it's about 10 o'clock. The mayor and the governor have said that there's a curfew. We're going to videotape the police snatching people up off the street for out on the street. And there you got it.
Yep. All right, it's starting to degrade again, so we're going to end the segment here.
Okay.
We'll be back with the next segment.
All right. Peace.
Hey. Greetings and welcome to this segment of Get the News Straight. I'm your host, Glenn Sutphin, and with me today is political pundit Chris Dorsey. Let's get into the Iran and the $400 million that they gave them, that they, whatever you want to call it, because it's that's really sketchy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that we're discussing this, because we've discussed these Iranian negotiations with the United States and the 5+1 Iran nuclear deal and everything like that. And we've discussed this not only amongst ourselves, but we've gone on Al-Alam television, Press TV, and Al-Atif, and we've discussed these issues with officials from governments all around the world, including Russia, Iran, and numerous different actors, agencies, journalists from all around the world. And now this is becoming an issue in the presidential election. And this involves the $400 million worth of Swiss francs and euros that were sent to Iran by the United States for payment of a decade-long, I should say, decade-old debt. and about States government stiffing before the revolution, before the 1979 hostage crisis. At one point, I think it was $1.2 deal. It was either that or a $1.4 billion deal. But anyways, now the presidential candidates and the media are starting to play this incident as if spies that the United States have operating in Iran are being captured and held hostage in order to get ransom money, and that they're alleging that this $400 million, which has been owed for, man, I'm 42 years old now, but for, I would say, 90% of my lifetime, this was owed to Iran. So this is a late payment, and basically they're not even paying like the interest on this debt. And Iran is saying, okay, well, just this is my take on it. Just give us this money. We don't want any Federal Reserve notes because we know they're worthless. We don't want any U.S. dollars. The same thing. We know they're worthless. What are you going to give us? What can you give us? You're not going to give us gold. Germany is stiffed on gold from you. Give us some Swiss francs and some euros. We'll call it. So what you run Zionist U.S. is taking care of everybody. So they got to pretend like these spies that are Iran is just releasing. They're releasing these hostages. They released the CIA and military agents in 1979 that were intent on destroying their country. They let them go. They didn't kill them. They didn't torture them to death like the United States and Israel does with their hostages. They let them go. And now what is being brought up, because this was very important. Glenn, you and I think we can remember this because I can say for myself, this is one of the first memories I have of my entire life is remembering the Iranian hostage crisis back in 1979 and not having any idea that these Americans were in Iran to destabilize and control the Iranian government. So basically, the U.S. is the bad guy in the scenario. The U.S. we can't even send it's not our money, but the U.S. government can't even send their own money to satisfy a debt. They need to get something of slightly more value that's still pretty worthless, but, you know, people still take Swiss francs and euros. I guess they're not taking Federal Reserve notes or U.S. dollars anymore. And they have to bring it up like Iran is taking hostages just so that they can get this $400 million. Now, Iran is owed hundreds of billions of dollars through this P5+1 deal. So the $400 million worth in euros seems to pale in comparison. So why is that what the media's focused on? Because the
distraction, we know that. It's a distraction. It's a beard. They focus on that to take your attention away from what else is going on. They make that the 400 million. Oh, look, 400 million, 400 million, 400 million. Don't worry about all the rest of the shit. 400 million, 400 million.
Also, we can tie this in because Iran allegedly executed a nuclear scientist, and that nuclear
scientist... That's the one that was outed by Hillary's emails?
Right.
What?
So we can tie that straight back to the Russian hacking incident, and again, they're acting as if are against Hillary. In fact, Hillary is who brokered the deal with Rosatom, valuable assets of the United States of America and handing it over to Russia. So if Russia is hacking Hillary Clinton's emails, what are they doing? Are they destroying information? Or Hillary Clinton is throwing this nuclear deal, and if we're hacking into these things and finding out, this CIA who's also an Iranian scientist says he was abducted in Saudi Arabia during Hajj. I think it was during Hajj, during some sort of pilgrimage, and he somehow ends up in the United States, says he's abducted, then somehow gets a hero's welcome back in Iran. It just seems like this guy was a CIA double agent the whole time, and that they had it correct. That's what it seems to me. But in any event, it's certainly not what it seems. And one of my favorite photos is the photos of the Iranians taking that swift boat off the coast of Iran, who is spying on Iran, where they take these guys captive. They're taking active duty military captive in Iran, and basically they're making these propaganda films where they're being, they're certainly not making propaganda films where they're being waterboarded or put into naked pyramids like the United States does, and then they're let go. So who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? I mean, I don't want to say good guy, but I will say who's not the sadistic, torturous, satanic sociopath. Well, definitely it's not Iran. And who is? Definitely the United States and Israel, because you don't see Iran, like, raping people on video and then putting it on their news. You don't see Iran, humiliating people and putting panties on their naked head while dogs are barking and snapping at them. But that is what the that is what your government does, not our government, your government. And when I say your, I mean who does refuse the criminal Zionist Jew-run United States government. There you have it. Who's the bad guy? We know the bad guy is the United States in this situation. And I'm not going to say Iran's the good guy, because I don't think any government is good. But who's much less bad? It's Iran.
Yeah. Well, who's not Zionist owned?
Who's not Zionist owned? There you go.
But I mean, think about it. Iran doesn't have a Rothschild bank in there. That's one of the reasons they're made the bad guy, is because they're one of 3 or 2 now.
I would say to be very exact in my opinion of what this is. I think that when the oil embargo ended, and when these billions started becoming available to Iran, I think that they started becoming more tied in with the banking system. But I mean, North Korea is not a signature battle. Neither is Iran. But they're going to have to start participating more in Basel III Accord in order to get the compensation that's owed them through so-called quote-unquote money. You're absolutely correct. Signatory they don't object to the Bank for International Funding.
Yeah,
and
you're breaking up real bad now, man.
Okay, and that's it.
So I think we'll just end it here then. All right, for this segment, we're out.
All right, peace.
Greetings. All right. Welcome to this segment of Get the News Straight. I'm your host, Glenn Sutphin. With me on this segment is Chris Dorsey, and you wanted to talk about the rigged elections, which is kind of like redundant, considering they've always been rigged.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that doesn't know that they're rigged is, I don't know what to say about that.
In need of a brain transplant.
Yeah, I mean, the selections have always been rigged. I mean, they started out rigged. They will continue to be rigged as long as we have them. So, but yeah, let's get into that since it's in the news about Trump saying, he doesn't want the elections rigged, and the White House coming out saying, we're not going to rig the elections. No, you're correct. You're not going to. You already did. There's just put it as it is. But
yeah, I just want to make it a point that the elections are so rigged that they have to address the fact that they're rigged and use the word rigged, because we started seeing Bolshevik Jew Bernie Sanders talk about the rigged society and how everything is rigged, so that you might think that Bernie Sanders doesn't do anything but sit around and watch Skype interviews between you and I. It seems like he's, forwarding a lot of our talking points about everything being rigged, because it is. It's obvious. The financial system is rigged. The news is rigged. The sports are rigged. The elections are rigged. Everything's rigged. So we know that. And Bernie Sanders, I mean, it was meant to be this way, but he was the victim, allegedly, except for he agreed to all of this, from the beginning, from decades ago. Basically, his supporters had their votes so obviously discounted that this became an international news story, the rigging of the Democratic primary. And so Donald Trump is now talking as if the elections will be rigged, and that will be the reason why he loses the elections, if he does lose the election. And I will agree with him. If he loses the election, it's because it was predetermined that he was going to lose the election. If he wins the election, he will win the election because it is predetermined that he will win the election. And there is absolutely no validity to the fact that if you think that you go in and you press a button on an electric voting machine, if you think that your vote counts in any sort of way, you're not very smart and you're very wrong. If you think that if you go in and you fill out a ballot and you stick it in a box, and that they're going to count all these ballots and in the box up, and that they're going to give an accurate accounting of the voting of the American population, you're very wrong and you're not very smart. So we can go through.
It would be the first time in history they did it.
It would be the first legitimate election, which brings up the point that not only is the 2016 election rigged, but the 2015 elections were rigged, the 2014 elections were rigged, the 2013 elections, the 2012, so on and so on and so on, going back, and we know this going back to 2000, we know it going back to the Nixon-Kennedy race in the decade before now. We know it, the Lincoln election. We know George Washington used to rig elections in certain ways and manipulate the people.
Yeah, I mean, ever since the inception of elections, they've been.
Yes.
It's a three-card Monte. I mean, come on.
So let's get into a couple things here in Virginia where we verified recently that the elections are rigged. And we have, and when we say we, all these videos, this is an intelligence debriefing to the public by the Virginia and Maryland militia. So that's what you're seeing right now. This is what the militia is doing. This is the only thing that we're doing at this point, and we are engaged in propaganda war against our enemies, and we're telling them the truth, and they're doing nothing but lying to you. So when we talk about elections being rigged in Virginia, of course, we don't have any further to look other than Richmond. We know that the balloting process in the elections in the Commonwealth of Virginia are fixed. We know that tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of votes have been disappeared over the past election, where, just here in the city of Richmond in 2012 and 2013, in 2013, 5 entire precincts recorded 0 votes. There were 0 votes for 5 precincts. That's about 12,000 votes in the city of Richmond. 0 votes. 5 polling places. Imagine you go to your polling place and your vote and every other vote of every other single individual who got in the car, rode their bike, walked down to the polling place, however they got there, every single one, not just from one precinct, but from 5 precincts during the presidential election of 2000, it disappeared. At a very satirical prostitute, a.k.a. Barack Hussein Obama, election, and he allegedly won Virginia. But really, do we really know that? Because we got 12,000 people whose vote just disappeared. And then when we talk about Virginia, we have, 15 to 20,000 dead people and household pets that are on the voting rolls.
Yeah.
And
dead people and pets. Yeah, that's really beyond
not 5,
amazing.
not 10, not 15, not 100, not 200, not 500, not 600, not 1,000, not 2,000, not 5,000. 15,000. Okay. And that's what we know about. That's what they're telling us about. That's what the people
God knows how many it really is.
are telling us.
Yeah, and we're relying on the people that are cheating and lying for the information. So
about their cheating and lying.
Yeah.
So imagine what they're really doing when they can't cover up anymore. Because that's where you and I come in. Because we investigate and discover things, but mostly we discover what they can't possibly cover up. Like the things that they are doing underhanded that they can cover up, they covered it up. We don't know about it. But what they can't cover it up. And another thing that happened during the Republican primary, getting back into the segue of Donald Trump and the rigged elections, Donald Trump should know because he's won nothing but rigged elections. And we know here in Richmond during the Republican primary and the Democratic primary that in Richmond on Jank Road, what is it? Maybe a mile. I'm saying this is 2 miles away. But yeah, maybe a mile away where we're sitting right now on Jank Road in South Richmond, voters during the Republican primary in Virginia were receiving ballots that had already been filled out. Not only were they receiving ballots that had already been filled out, the ballots that they were filling out that already been filled out were being handed to elected officials who we know very well. We know Kirk James Showalter, the criminal. We know Cecilia Dabney, the criminal. We know all the criminals that run the Virginia State Election Board, Virginia State Board of Elections, the Registrar of Richmond, Jane Kirk Showalter, who's always in charge of rigged elections, to flip them around multiple times. Mike Herring won the Attorney General back in 2013 as a result of a found voting machine. They just found a voting machine. One person was winning one day, and they were like, "Oh no, we found a voting machine in Richmond. Oh, now we have a new winner." But what she's doing this time is that they're stuffing the ballots into duffel bags. That's what they did this time because there was we didn't even touch on Teflon Terry McCullough having the experience of thousands and thousands of voters from 2010 to 2015 where they're pressing the button to vote for one individual, and they press the button and it actually votes for another. That actually allegedly happened to Clinton consigliere and Jeffrey Epstein pedophile ring associate Terry McCullough. Oh, and of course, Chinese agent Terry McCullough. So Terry McCullough is experiencing this election fraud firsthand. So what happened? They got rid of all the electronic voting machines in Virginia, and then instead they're giving out ballots now that are already filled out, and after filling it out, they don't put it in a secure lockbox. They stuff them in duffel bags. That's what happened. So if there's no confidence in the system whatsoever, I'm going to just say, just end it now. Just go and walk in the middle of traffic. Don't do that because you take somebody else who's not. Just know yourself. You are not, you're living low potential. If you don't realize all the elections are rigged and that nothing but criminals control your government and they're illegitimate and the folks who should be in charge of government are targeted and assassinated, and in our case, attempted assassination by government, then you don't know anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't know anything.
I mean, I've and it's getting worse. I mean, it didn't used to be this. It's either getting worse or it's just getting so far out in the open that it's because it didn't used to be this obvious.
It didn't used to be this obvious.
You know, you had to dig deep to find dirt. Now you got to brush the dirt away to find the dirt. I mean, there's so much of it. It's like they basically said, hey, we know that we're criminals and we're just going to do it anyway, and you're going to let us, so let's do it.
And that's what's happening.
And everybody goes, oh, okay.
That's reality.
We don't want to say anything because somebody might say something about us, and we got to get out of our little box. And oh no, we got to be in our safe spot, and draw a chalk outline around us, and we're in our safety box now. Everything's okay. No, I'm tired of people living that way. I mean, really. And if you want to live that way, that's fine. That's your choice. Go to a different country and do it then. I mean, yeah, like you, or go jump off a tall building.
Do it because
just take yourself out. Do what the oligarchs want and eliminate the stupidity from the world. That's the way I feel about it. Because if you're not awake, you're part of the problem.
Absolutely. Voters are the problem. Voting is the problem. But, simple solution, and that's the abolition of government. We can restore the Constitution. If you go, oh, the Constitution is too strict, it gives too many advantages, I'll disagree with you, and then I'll go, okay, let's go back to the Articles of Confederation. And then you go, well, the Articles of Confederation were written by this and that, and now I go, okay, let's go back to our ancient, sacred common law, and if you want to argue with that, then we'll have a fight.
Yeah, I mean, basically they're against common law and natural law. I mean, it's a perversion of the law, and if we're going, let's go back to the, like you said, the Articles of Confederation, the Iroquois Convention.
Great Law of Peace. The Iroquois, Great Law of Peace, like you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's get back to living life and stop worrying about the rules that are made for government. And, I mean, they're going, oh, the Constitution is this and that. It's not affecting the people. It's affecting the government.
And I will say,
in its form that it was written in, not in the form that we have now.
I do want to follow up on that because I'm not going to give up on the Constitution, because if the Constitution were enforced, you and I would be in charge and our enemies would be executed. So, and when I say you and I would be in charge, I mean the people would be in charge of their government. So, under the rules of the Constitution, if the Constitution were enforced, the government would be immediately abolished, and rule of law would be restored. The Pentagon would be liquidated. The Federal Reserve Bank would be liquidated, and there would be new forms of monetary policy and military policy. And the mainstream media and those who own and run the corporate Zionist-run media would be executed, and the public airways would be given to the public and the people. And there you have it. So that's the plan. Basically, they go, what's your plan? You want to abolish the government. You think that the leaders of the government will be executed. I'd say, well, I mean, that's what the Constitution said. I didn't write the Constitution.
Yep.
It makes sense that tyrannical, treasonous traitors would be taken out of office, and if formed to fight and protect the property of man is into a tyrannical tool to enslave man, of course, it would into that law that if that happens, then that government must be abolished immediately, and that's what we're doing. We are forwarding that agenda, and we would like to, I'll participate in firing squads, for these government officials and Jewish bankers. I'm not going to be above doing that because it's for the best of humanity and the planet, and that's for all living things, not all God's creatures, not just the ones that God is capable of self-destruction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm all for the abolishment of the government, and we need to evolve away from government. I mean, it was a good experiment, and it ran its course, and like every experiment, it's time to put it away and do the next thing.
Okay, I just want to make a quick point on that because what we have is virtually, and I should say, it is almost a worst-case scenario for government. So I don't want to judge all government by a worst-case scenario for government because government simply means mind control of the mind. And
I believe in self-governance.
Right. When we have a common law system where there is no criminal activity unless you harm the person, harm another, man, woman, or child, there is no crime. Unless you cause harm to another man, woman, or child, and then you are responsible to them. You're not responsible to a government. You're responsible to compensate the individual that you harmed or group of individuals that you harmed. Government is it's a mind map thing. This is their electric magic nonsense where they want to take a two-dimensional creation and think that they can use that to control the masses.
They've done real good with it. I mean, come on, look at what they've done with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ever since Plato's Republic. I mean, come on. It's been that long, and people, it's like, come on, if you follow the history, but that's the problem with now. People don't follow the history. They don't look into things. They just listen to what they're fed and go, oh, that must be true. I mean, I sometimes fall into this. Even me doing this, it's like you just take it as commonplace, some of this stuff. You go, okay, must be true because I read it. Well, wait a minute. I'm falling into that trap. You read it. You didn't look. You didn't go and research. You just read it. Somebody regurgitated it. You go, okay, must be true. Find out later it's not. Then what? Most people just go, well, I'll just stick here because I don't want to look like an ass. I go, hey, I was fucking wrong. Let me go back and re-research and make myself correct. I mean,
great point.
Had,
Great point, Glenn. I do want to say that in regard to myself as well. I do a lot of research. I've experienced a lot of this stuff firsthand, and I have a unique perspective. And that is because I'm motivated to find out what the truth is, and I don't want to be spewing a bunch of nonsense. So if I'm incorrect, I don't want to be incorrect. I want to be proven wrong. So when we start out we come up with our ideas and we do every step in order to prove what we even, are 99.9% sure is correct. We go through all the steps to disprove what we're before we move forward. And I do not wish to be wrong or incorrect. And if I am, I'm not married or dogmatic to my viewpoint. I want to be correct. I want to do the right thing. And I don't want to be, defend my position regardless of the fact that my position may be wrong. So again, this is a lot of folks who are infiltrating these, Black Lives Matter groups or these, so-called alleged white supremacist groups, and they'll go, oh, see, well, these cops killed the black woman and shot at her child, so that's what's behind everything. It's racist, but especially racist cops. And I don't want to be on the other side where these stupid white supremacist idiots who, probably in most cases are, Israeli trolls, are pushing forward this narrative saying, oh, well, doesn't matter what happened to her because she was stupid and she should have listened to the law, and it doesn't matter because it's just another, dead minority, and they say it in a much more,
right, offensive
manner. But what I'm saying is, I'm not going to argue over two different lies, depending on which lie I feel more comfortable with, which is another one of their forms of manipulation. You're like, oh, man, I don't like that kind of language, the way they're talking about this woman, so I'm going to automatically think that this is racist cops, even though the cops in Baltimore County and Baltimore City, man, what are they, like 40% African American and maybe 40%, European American and other minorities mixed in there. So it's like a non-starter, but that's what they normally do. This can segue back to the elections. They tell you two lies, and they get everyone to argue over which lie of the two lies they like better.
Yeah, which lie sounds the best? It's mind blowing, literally.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, but that's pretty much the way they do it. So maybe we can close it off there.
All right, that sounds good, man. Well, for this segment, I've been your host, Glenn Sutphin, here with Chris Dorsey, and we will talk to you again.
God bless.
Peace.